Hi, this is Al DiTullio coming to you live from Watertown's beautiful palatial theater. Welcome to Watch This. You can get reviews for first-run movies anywhere, but who can afford $10 these days, $20 with popcorn and a drink? Certainly not me. That's why all the movies you see here are available at video clubs. So sit back, microwave some popcorn, and grab your favorite drink as we get ready to take you to the movies. Here's Paul Ablin with his review of Takeshi's Castle, aka MXC.
For Westerners, and Americans in particular, Japanese game shows are a bit of an enigma. We just don't know what to make of them. Sometimes we just don't want to. Anyhow, confronted by the spectacle of a Japanese game show, we sit there, jaws agape, as swarms of petite contestants rush to be the first to inflict great pain on themselves. In our bewildered state, we can only conclude that Japanese people have an unusually high tolerance for pain and humiliation. That and liability laws as we know them here in the States don't exist in Japan. However, once we get past the shock, all the confusion that surrounds Japanese game shows soon dissipates, and a pattern begins to form. See, in Japan, there's an old formula that many game shows have followed. I don't know where or how it began, but it goes something like this. First, you start out with a giant group of people, at least 50, and sometimes hundreds. Next, you force this group to tackle difficult and often dangerous obstacles. Sometimes, though not always, humiliating the people who fail as you eliminate them from the competition. The goal here is to slowly whittle down the group to a single winner, or as in the case of Takeshi's Castle, a handful of finalists who then either compete against each other, or as a team for the ultimate prize. Now, there were many shows which followed this formula, and where they differed was in their presentation or their narrative. For Takeshi's Castle, for example, the 100 or more contestants were all vying for a slot in General Tanny's army, so that they could challenge the forces of Count Takeshi and possibly defeat him for a share in the 1 million yen prize. Or $1.39. But we're not reviewing Takeshi's Castle, we're reviewing MXC. They're almost the same thing, but not quite. See, Japanese is one of the more difficult languages to translate, sort of. The problem isn't just that the language is so different, but that the culture is so different. Well, there are concepts in English which don't have a corresponding Japanese equivalent, and vice versa. Even when you get the words technically correct, there can still be a problem with their meaning. The result can be awkward and sometimes hilarious. When the folks at the Spike Cable Network decided to air Takeshi's Castle, they settled on a rather unique way to tackle the translation problems. They decided not to bother. No, seriously. Spike decided to not bother with translating Takeshi's Castle into English. Instead, they just decided to make up their own dialogue and dub it in. They also cut it down from 1 hour to 30 minutes, invented a new title for the show, and made up their own names for all the characters while they were at it. So instead of Count Takeshi and General Tanny, for example, they had Vic Romano and Captain Tennille starring on a show called Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, which was later shortened to just MXC.
I am so excited. I just got some life insurance, and I want to make you my primary beneficiary.
Wow. How much cash am I getting?
Oh, better than cash can. The 74 Matador Coupe.
And they didn't stop there. They also invented their own game. Instead of a few hundred contestants each struggling for a place at the end, Spike created a scenario where the contestants were always divided into two competing teams, each trying to win a challenge. They even went so far as to post a running score during the show.
As the belly achers, stomach the master bakers. MXC is back with more carnage as the minimum wagers take on the yellow pagers. CSI is back as the finger printers take on the finger painters.
Well, the result of all this was something even more over the top and campy than the original Japanese game show. Assuming, of course, that such a thing is even possible. Like any show, MXC evolved over the years with a noticeable difference in look and feel from the earliest episodes to the last two seasons. In my opinion, the show got better with time, starting strong but growing with every episode until finally, by the fourth season, achieving something so bizarre, so campy, that you could actually feel your IQ dropping as you watch.
Across the precarious granite domino slabs without getting doomed.
Ah, he got doomed.
And there we go. Eyes off my junk. And first up, it's Pat Nagel. He's a self-doodling tattoo artist who does a lot of work in the mirror. Oh, he's down again.
No wonder you can't read his stuff.
Right you are. Here, of course, Big Bill Barty. He operates the world's largest fleet of shrimp boats.
Yeah, and to pleasure himself on weekends, he plays the small dinghy on Lake Placid.
Well, let's hope he's up for this run, Ken.
Now, all 4 seasons of Spike's MXC are available on home DVD. And as an extra special bonus, every volume includes at least one entire episode of Takeshi's Castle as it originally appeared in Japan. How can you beat that?
Knock it off. Just take us out.
You're pissed. Oh, okay. Hey, what do we always say? Don't get eliminated!
We'll be back after this.
God, would you please sing something else?
Would you like to join the cast or crew of Watch This? Come on, you know you want to. Email us at watchthis@email.com. That's watchthis@email.com. We hope to hear from you soon.
Well, great show, Ken, and I sent Guy a congratulatory cake on his Emmy nomination. So why don't you take us out, huh?
All right, what do we always say?
Don't get eliminated!
We're back. Here's Kara Barnum's review of The Naked Civil Servant.
Back in my late teens, my father treated me to a night out at the theater. We saw Babes in Arms, the 1937 Broadway classic with music by Richard Rodgers, of Rodgers and Hammerstein fame. My father said that he noticed me laughing at all the cynical lines, and it was because of this that he later decided to give me a copy of the book The Naked Civil Servant, the autobiography of Quentin Crisp. I think you'll like this, he said. He was wrong. I loved it. I became a huge fan of the author, Quentin Crisp, right then and there.
How is it there?
Every moment has been agony, but I couldn't have done otherwise.
Story of our lives.
Eventually, I not only met him, but got to know him about as well as any adoring fan can know a literary figure, getting together with him on occasion and often speaking to him on the phone.
Quentin, I love you.
Oh, my darling, you do realize.
I don't care.
I considered him a friend. But this isn't about Quentin Crisp or even the book, The Naked Civil Servant. It's about the movie by that same title. But you'll have to excuse me, though. As having been introduced to the book first, I can't help but compare the two. One difference is that, as a teenager, I had to read the book more than once to understand it. Most of the action takes place far away and decades before I was born, so it wasn't always easy for me to get. But this isn't a problem with a movie. Whenever a book makes the transition to the screen, there's always a certain level of translating that takes place, if for no other reason than time constraints. This process seems to have smoothed over any of the issues I had with the book's references to outmoded British culture. The Naked Civil Servant is the autobiography of a gay man born decades before anyone even heard the term civil rights, let alone wanted to apply them to gay people. And what grabs you right away is the realization of just how much courage Mr. Crisp had to have in order to survive.
You're a pansy, aren't you?
There is a persistent sadness in the movie, even at the film's close at what should be the proverbial happy ending. It takes place in 1975 when some gays were out of the closet, disco was playing on the radio, and outrageous clothes were in. The film reveals that the danger to him wasn't over. But at the age of 66, he had already experienced far worse than anyone was still capable of throwing at him. It all reminds me of a line from the poem Invictus. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed.
I seem to have annoyed you gentlemen in some way.
That was Quentin Crisp, bloody but unbowed. This made-for-TV movie, as it happens, comes off as being less bleak than the book. For one thing, there seem to be far more cocktail parties and, of course, far more dialogue.
More champagne?
Marvelous. Good party, eh?
Not to mention the excellent music, clothes, and makeup. And did I mention John Hurt, the actor who portrays Mr. Crisp in the film? Clearly, the man was the only actor of his time who could play Mr. Crisp.
The great thing about following an obvious homosexual is that you can't possibly be wrong. He will certainly do whatever you want, and he will certainly not run screaming to the police. Courtship in such cases consists of the words,
How much?
His performance was so convincing that it won a BAFTA award, the British version of our Academy Awards. Apparently, they have categories for television. So why, I ask you, can you find the movie title in other movie guides but not in Leonard Maltin's? Definitely see this movie. Every other line, if not more, is a memorable witticism.
You ought to clean up. This place is filthy.
I have discovered a great labor-saving secret. After the first 4 years, the dust doesn't get any worse. I have a message for those who, like me, inhabit a world of make-believe. Sexual intercourse is a poor substitute for masturbation.
And when you're done, enjoy Mr. Crisp's other books, How to Become a Virgin, How to Go to the Movies, the novel Chog, and of course his sequel to The Naked Civil Servant titled Resident Alien. Interestingly, Mr. Crisp had wanted to call his autobiography I Reign in Hell, but the publishers talked him out of it. Had he given it that title, the book's sequel, Resident Alien, would have instead been called I Serve in Heaven, a reference to the last years of his life spent in Lower Manhattan, where he lived openly as a gay entertainer, holding court for anyone willing to pick up a dinner tab, such as me. And of course, you may want to check out my essays at crisperanto.org.
When these people came to me and said, we should like to make a film of your life, I said, yes, do. Films are fantasies. Films are magical illusions.
Wash, wash, wash. They just want me to be a sissy.
But then, one night, Billy had a dream.
But you're wrong, Billy. It's not sissy to be clean. Let me introduce myself. Soapy's the name, partner.
Why, you're a living cake of soap.
Big as life, Billy. And I'm here to help you. Just lie down and close your eyes. That's right.
One never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal, and it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill.
Here's Jack Tan's review of Corner Gas.
Now, we've reviewed a number of television series already, but Corner Gas is a little bit different from most. For one thing, it was a hit. It wasn't canceled. Okay, it is canceled, but only now, only after 6 successful years. Most shows never make it to 5 years. Another thing that sets Corner Gas apart from the rest is that it's Canadian. It was produced entirely by Canada's CTV network and starred only Canadian actors. Could you imagine if an American network refused to hire anyone who wasn't an American? Anyhow, I only discovered Corner Gas recently, within a month or two after they announced its cancellation. My usual timing. The show was quite a find, though. Sort of Andy Griffith meets Green Acres. They even have a couple of police officers who'd fit right into Mayberry.
No!
Come on.
Davis, I am not pulling your finger.
Corner Gas centers on Brent Leroy, the second-generation owner of a gas station in the small rural town of Dog River. Like Andy Griffith's Mayberry, Dog River is a quaint little town where things move a bit slower than most places. Life is simpler, and everybody knows each other. It's the kind of place where people dream of raising their kids, or maybe retiring to, ripped straight from a Norman Rockwell painting. Only it's in the middle of Canada. Saskatchewan. Now that's the Andy Griffith part. The comparisons to Green Acres begin and end with Lacey Burrows, one of the many supporting characters. Lacey moves to Dog River from the big city, Toronto, to take over the town's coffee shop after her Aunt Ruby dies. And it is primarily through her eyes, as the outsider, that we see the, we'll say, idiosyncrasies of the townsfolk.
Good. Because I have learned not to get involved. If I fix that pothole, everyone will get mad at me for some bizarre reason that logic can't predict. You know, that pothole was a good bird bath or something. And then, even though everyone else is eccentric, I'll end up looking eccentric.
Right. Well, I just came here for some food and coffee.
Good.
Hope that's not coming across as eccentric.
But don't get the idea that this show is a relic from the past. It's not. It's thoroughly modern, with strong writing, and produced by Brett Butt, who's not only the show's star, but an experienced stand-up comic. He knows what he's doing.
Remember when you said if I ever need a place to stay, you'd put me up?
Well, yeah, but wasn't the phrase last resort or hell freezes over in there somewhere?
Other characters of note include Oscar and Emma Leroy, Brett's retired parents.
Holy hell! A new bulletin board. I didn't hear anything. There was no bulletin on the old board about it.
Corner Gas, rented today.
I hate this place.
So you gonna stay?
That's a bummer.
Should I go flirt with her?